It's my hearing aid.
What do you think? Good to go? Thanks. Okay, everybody else is here in person. Student Representative Schoenfeld is attending senior night tonight, so she'll be unable to join us. Student Representative Lay is running a little bit late, but she should be here in time, certainly in time for her student representative report. So we'll go ahead and
Yes.
worth flipping the unused microphone. So we'll go ahead and start with a review of our agenda. And we do have some changes to the agenda. We're actually going to pull one item of information and 3 action items. So as discussed in our executive committee meeting earlier today, we're going to pull the strategic priorities update, so item 8.2, and present that at a future meeting. I think this makes a little bit more sense given that we're going to hear from Superintendent Wells with his 6-month update, and then also hear an academic data review, and we'll get questions and comments from the board, and that will help Superintendent Wells and his team revise those strategic priorities and present those to the board at a later time. Pulling 2 items from the consent action items agenda, items B3, approval of personnel actions, and B6, resolution to dispose of personal property solely surplus. And then 1 individual action item, item C4, the Kessler sewer easement. And we will just need to, after discussing with the Facilities and Maintenance Committee yesterday, conclusion was made to have some further dialogue with the city over that, and we'll develop with the board at a future meeting. So, trustees, any other questions, comments regarding tonight's agenda? Okay. Before we go to the superintendent's report, looks like we have quite a few members of the public who are joining us tonight. So I do want to go over, for those of you who are interested in making public comment, kind of go over how we do that. So for every individual action item that we'll consider tonight, we will include a specific public comment period for that. So, for example, when we consider approving the Lincoln re-roof bid, we would offer a public comment period specific to that action item. But then for everything else that isn't an action item on the agenda, we'll consider what's called general public comment. So that's right at the top of the agenda after the superintendent's report. So I don't want to be presumptuous, but most people who have been giving public comment recently have been giving public comment regarding our COVID-19 mitigation efforts. So anything regarding face masks, that kind of thing. Since we're not taking action on any of our COVID-19 mitigations tonight, if you have a statement you want to share with the board regarding, I'll say pretty much anything COVID-19 related, that general public comment period would probably be the best time to do that. A couple of guidelines, whether it's public comment specific to an action item or general public comment. We do just have some guidelines. Many of you are very familiar with these, so bear with me. But we ask that you limit your public comment to 3 minutes. I'll go ahead and time that. When you have 1 minute left, I'll give you kind of a verbal 1 minute left. And then if the timer hits 3 minutes, I'll say that's time, and you'll also hear the timer go up. So if you're still speaking and you hit that 3 minute time limit, I would just ask you to finish your sentence, wrap up, so that the next person can start their public comment. We ask that you state your name and your relationship to the district, and ideally spell your name so we have that correctly for the minutes. Relationship to the district could be anything. I'm a parent, I'm a taxpayer, however you want to identify yourself. We'll do in-person public comment first, and then see if anyone online wants to give public comment. If you're online, we just ask that you enter your name into the chat box, indicate that you want to give public comment. If you have any problems doing that, you can go ahead and just raise your hand within Teams. In terms of the public comment itself, just ask that you address the board regarding issues within our jurisdiction. I ask that you refrain from using any abusive, defamatory, or insulting language. I would ask that you not attack individuals or their motives, but instead focus on the policies and procedures that we have here in the district. I would ask you to state your position and make your case, and at all times maintain an environment of mutual respect and civility. And this is something this community has done a great job, even when we've considered issues that are highly controversial, with which we do not all agree, and I very much appreciate it. And so that's the expectation for tonight, and I don't anticipate that we'll have any problem with that. So, with that, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Welch for his report, and then we'll go to general public comment, and then we'll proceed through the rest of our thing. Superintendent Welch.
Thank you, Board Chair. Appreciate everyone's attendance. Thank you, Board, for being here this evening and volunteering. As normal, through the superintendent report, we'll go through recognition, new business, and then some outreach, and anything else that may have that developed post the agenda being posted out on Friday. So we'll run through that. It will be a little longer than normal. Just that I wanted to draw your attention to the 6-month mid-year report as well. So we'll get through that. So recognition is fairly lengthy. In February, a couple of national events going on. One is it's Black History Month and Valentine's Day. So this district office, our Lincoln Center central office, had the ability to get out and see 3 different schools since we last met as a board. We were at Rossiter. The team met at Rossiter. I unfortunately was not able to meet with them. I was home that day. Jefferson Elementary had a site visit, and also Ray York Learning Center. I want to thank the staff for hosting us, talking to us. Again, our staff has just really risen to the occasion in doing what they need to do for kids, and so it's really great to be able to get out and just visit with them to understand why we do this job. Sophomore at Helena High School, Annika Herring, has been elected or a delegate for the Montana High School Association, one of several members of student body that she'll represent us there on that board. So we wish her best of luck. Our instructional coaches we've talked about it, and you'll hear me talk about it in the 6-month report. But they've done a lot of work in conjunction with our teaching staff. But they just completed in helping assist in our iReady benchmark assessments. That was last Friday, 2 Fridays ago. They finished, and our curriculum and assessment team has started to put together the data that you'll see tonight. So I want to thank our instructional coaches for their support around that. We've had some comments around about that data and reporting the data, and made some decisions that one, we're going to send out the fall and winter iReady assessment. We have those queued up and ready to send this week, so parents can be able to see what that looks like for the fall and then the growth into the winter. Also, our SBAC, remember 2 years ago that was canceled or postponed, and then we did take the SBAC last spring. We also have that queued up. I know that Mr. Meyer in IT is working with OPI and getting those, our system and their system. They don't send us hard copies anymore, so it comes in through electronic means. And we're working on having students' IDs match our system, which then couples their email account so that we can send it out. We have an issue with some of those IDs, so I've asked today to have hard copies printed here. In the event that we cannot send them electronically, I want those out the door hard copy if we have to the schools and dispersed out that way, so we get them out. But I'm just making a backup plan in case the IDs don't work. But the SBAC data from last year will be sent out along with our fall and winter iReady. Moving on, our HR team and Ms. Colette. There's been some dialogue with our trustees and HR of producing or hosting a volunteer and guest training. A lot of times they'll come in and we'll have guests or volunteers come in and we say, thanks for your time, your school is now ready for you, and they go in kind of cold. And so we did an onboarding here in this room about a week ago, and so thanks to the HR team for getting that pulled together. State AA speech and debate was held in Helena. Congratulations to all the participants there. I will tell you that some of you had judged that. That's quite an undertaking. I'll probably pull in some of the information that our student reps will say, but the interesting piece, and I think we're our testament to our community, is that a speech and debate meet isn't easy to put together. And so I thank our coaches, I thank our athletic director, and I thank 207 volunteers that came in and judged those competitions. So 207, that's quite an accomplishment for Helena to run a state speech and debate meet. So I'm thankful for those that stepped up. Senator Daines visited Capitol High School. I had the honor to go and see this in action about 2 or 3 months ago. It's the Big Hearts Under Big Sky promotion, and Mr. Weber there as the instructor puts together a great program and brings in speakers. And so Senator Daines came and was listened to that and also offered up an honor as well. I think that what's important there is I appreciate Senator Daines coming, but more importantly, I appreciate Mr. Weber and the work he does with our students at Capitol. So congratulations to them. And then we had a weld-off, and I just put this down here for your viewing. First place, Helena High School students, a team there. Second place, Mr. Risman is in the house, so we can recognize him. Second place goes to East Helena High School, and third and fourth, also Helena High and Capitol High, respectively. So congratulations to them as well. On to new business. It's been a pretty quick year at warp speed. We've already surpassed the 100-day mark. Feels like sometimes 100 years. But we're at the 100-day mark, and in elementary, that's a big deal. And there's a lot of celebration around that 100-day. And so that took place last week. I'm going to come back to the mid-year report because that's going to be the meat of really my presentation. We've had PACS training for administrators, and if there is a question or two, I know that Mr. Cummings is out working with a student issue right now, but we do have Ms. Carter in the back that would be happy to help us answer any of those questions. We've also, new businesses, HTA negotiations, we're starting the process there. I have asked 2 board members to sit in on that process with us, which is pretty that's what I've done in the past, and so I like having a board member or 2 with us in those negotiations. And then just a heads up, transportation report, we were going to do that tonight, but there's a lot going on in tonight's agenda, and so we pushed that out to the work session. Will take place at Central Elementary. Outreach, again, you can see through here a lot of different meetings and conversations. I think the most important through this is that continuing to reach out and talk and communicate with groups and people. Part of that plan is always communicating wherever we can. Upcoming parent-teacher conferences in March. That'll be the elementary, and each site will do that a little different, and the timing will be a little different. Middle school is early February because they need to start programming and talking to parents of what that looks like, and so middle school will start in February. Other I have listed out as I warned you about. No school February 21st, that's President's Day. And then moving on, a big shout out. Everyone, as I said before, there's a lot of people doing a lot of great work, but it is National Counselors Week. So as a high school principal in my life and an elementary principal, I know how valuable counselors are. They do a lot of everything, and so I want to appreciate and recognize our school counselors throughout the school district. Congratulations to Laura Branco, she's a Capitol High teacher, and as an English teacher, and she is the Montana Theater Teacher of the Year through her peer group, and so congratulations to Laura. Barb Ridgeway has worked extremely hard. There was a shortage of COVID tests, as we talked about, and so trying to find boxes and lots of tests. We thought we scored at one point. We understood that there were a big box or a lot of tests. We turned out to be a box of 40, not 4,000 like we thought it was going to be. But she secured extra tests, and we've now started up a drive-through clinic again here at Lincoln Center, and that'll be Monday through Thursday, 4 to 7, as we kick that back up like we were before the shortage. And then also C.R. Anderson, we had KMTX, the 105.3, and Lithia of Helena, Teacher of the Month, and that is Chris Novinsky. He is our January Teacher of the Month, recognized by our radio station. So there that is. Now let's circle back around to that new business I was mentioning earlier. I do believe, and Mr. Myers, you could probably pick that up on the big screen as well. You have a printed copy as well as a downloaded copy of the 6-month report before you, trustees. I'll give you a second to pull that up. There'll be 2 places. One, it may be easier just to look at the hard copy, and I'll walk us through from page. What I want to do is not read the whole thing verbatim, but I do want to highlight some accomplishments as we move forward. So this may or may not be new to Helena School District, but I felt as if, and our team has felt as if, we've put a lot of time and energy, and the lens has been around COVID mitigation, and what does that look like? The passion and energy seems to draw a lot of attention to a couple of aspects that we've been dealing with throughout the year. Remember, we started in July and August, that we thought that this year was going to be much more normal, and it's proven that it hasn't. And so what I want to do is just to enlighten that there's more going on than just COVID mitigation. There are other things and other places in our district that is doing great work. Quite frankly, we've insulated groups and departments to do their job so that we can continue to grow students. And I myself and a few others have really worked around making sure that we can stay in school 5 days a week and provide high quality education services. So that's what this is about. If you look at it, right now we're running roughly 7,600 students, about 1,100 full-time or part-time employees. We have 11 elementary schools, as you see. Ray York as our early K and preschool services, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools, PAL, of course, Access Success in adult basic ed. That's what we are working towards. I'm off to page 4 as we get through my opening letter. There's a district priority that was established several years ago. It's really about operations and teaching and learning. But what I simplified it to this year is really an ABC plan. We're working heavily around academics, building great relationships and good communication, and so that's where we've been. Our priorities will always be that of what we've established, but what we are doing is really working around great communication and academics and building those positive, respectful relationships. Around the academic side, so here we go. Around the academic side was a first decision that I really wanted to have support in our classrooms around the academic. We knew that coming out of a pandemic was going to require additional focus, and we already had, through a literacy grant, a pilot program of 2 schools that were working with academic coaches, and it had proven to be successful. So with our ability to obtain additional coaches, as you'll see this, we have 19 altogether now, 12 in the elementary, 1 in each middle school, and 5 throughout the high school. We focus on providing much more attention to curriculum, consistency programs in our consistency within our programs, and a connectivity, if you will, across the district, that our instructional coaches now support teachers, but they also support the district in the ability to come together, talk about best practices, and then move back out throughout their schools and unite us all as one group versus silos of excellence throughout our district. And so that's been a big piece for us. Moving through the lack of learning and the learning loss, if you will, K-8 and 9-12 has also worked on providing opportunity for students to recover credit. Now, obviously, we had Mount Ascension at the beginning of the summer to help students, but our high school classes are having tutoring classes throughout the day. We have after-school programs for our seniors to credit recovery, and implemented tutoring opportunity for students. 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 Opportunity. I would say we can emphasize opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great sound. That's a great sound bite, right?
I needed a drink of water anyway. Then after school opportunity for tutoring. It looks different in the K-5. Each building, the number of staff that they might have, and the different times that they offer those after school tutoring sessions. But we are doing those. When I was at Roster last year, we did the same thing. We had additional staff members, and then we selected students that needed that help, and we moved them through in the afternoon where parents came to pick them back up. So we continue to do that work. 6-8, we have academic assistance, and then 9-12, similar after-school tutoring opportunities. Moving on to page 5, we continue to do the online opportunity for students. It's not as robust as it was last year, but it's still a very good program. It used to be at 2020. It's called now Edgenuity, and it's a comprehensive program for our students. In particular, 6-12, we know that elementary, it's a little more difficult for students to have the initiative to do their own work. We really want them in front of adults. But we do have, at the high school level, we have Edgenuity and, of course, Montana Digital Academy. I told you I was a high school principal for years. And Montana Digital Academy is also another great opportunity for students that would rather be online, can do so with that program. Our coaches in this year, something new that we've established is the WIN groups. WIN stands for in elementary, what I need. And so really looking at targeted interventions, looking at our data, knowing what students need for support, and providing that in small group instruction. That's called a WIN group. And we're implementing that across, not all elementary schools are doing that, but the majority are. And we believe that that is paying dividends. We see that in our data. Consequently, that's a lot of work of where our coaches are at. Our coaches are supporting that movement as well. So we, again, another reason why our coaches are instrumental in the work that we're doing. Again, I said this before, we had 2 schools that piloted this through the literacy grant, and we saw the success. So that was at Central and Bryant. And so we modeled that same system throughout the district and even into the high schools now. I mentioned earlier, Camp Ascension, really a brain that started last year, but that Camp Ascension was really critical in helping kids stay connected to school. We did a lot of academic work in the mornings, and then some after lunch activities to keep kids engaged. And it really we had not only just the rigor of academics and math and literacy, but also some connections, social connections for them to come together and do partner with our community that they may have not done before. So our community came together to help support our kids during Mount Ascension, and our plans are to do that same thing again this summer. And I believe my 2 assistant superintendents and teams are starting to look at how to pull that out. What did we learn? What worked? What didn't? And then do it again for next summer. We have the ability to, if you had asked if we should change our platform for assessment right before a pandemic, I said probably not a great idea, but no one saw it coming. And so STAR was our platform for assessment, and we moved to an iReady right in the middle of one of the hardest times in the world to be a teacher and a coach. But we have added the iReady platform. We've also brought on a standards-based report card, and that's more meaningful. We talked about the ABCs of the plan and the communication. We want to enhance our ability to communicate. A standards-based report card that we're starting to implement now in K-5 allows the teacher, the school, and the parent to have a much more deeper, meaningful conversation around what do students know. It's not an A, B, C, or a satisfactory or unsatisfactory. It lists the standards. Are they proficient? Are they meeting it? Or do they need support? And so that's much more rich of a conversation than to say, well, they're satisfactory. And that's a little more difficult to understand and comprehend. It takes a lot of work to change that report card system, but that's where we're at right now. I mentioned the iReady. We do that 3 times a year. We don't have a lot of data. We don't have the longitudinal data for years of testing, but we do now have this year's fall, this year's winter, 2 data points. I'm excited. We do this 3 times a year to see where our spring growth would look like, right? This is not a rank and file system as you would see in another. This is a iReady. Is specifically based on individual student growth, and I think that's where we will have a much more rich conversation with our parents. So I look forward to that. There's things that we have worked on before in our community. Is the 4 model, the 4 questions that you ask. What do you want all kids to know? What happens when they don't? What happens when they do? And how do we know if they get there? That is one of the questions is the acceleration is that iReady will be able to help us on both of those questions when kids don't know and they already learned it, that they have enrichment activities and or support activities as well. So we're excited about the opportunity to know and grow with iReady as we move through this pandemic and out of it. This year, in the last 6 months, again, we just haven't thought about COVID. There's other pieces to it, and I will say professional development. It's staggering to think that we've had 325 professional development opportunities for staff. It's that we're just not teaching, that we're also gaining and increasing our knowledge around teaching. So 325 professional development sessions. I got this written down from teaching welding in the virtual world to the science of reading. And there's been K through 12 opportunities for teachers to grow and learn as in the last 6 months. We have early outs on Mondays, and that's where we have an opportunity to really talk about students and what's going well with them, where their struggles might be. And again, as we talk about the PLC model, those 4 questions we always ask in those meetings is what do we want our kids to know? How do we know if they're going to get there? Or how do we know if they get there? And what happens when they don't understand it and when they do? Right? Those are the genesis of the questions around our early releases. And that starts with every child as the PLC teams meet on those Monday early releases. Moving on to page 8, I believe. Mental health. There's a lot of conversation around mental health. In my second year, the first year as a principal and now as a superintendent, I tell you as a board, I've been in 3 different states and several different school districts. I'm encouraged by the work that's been done around mental health services in the Helena School District. Can we do more? Absolutely. I think through all of this report is that we're doing good things and we can do more, but I will say that the services that we can provide and do provide and our staff has at their access is really remarkable. We have core programming in K-5, second steps, really working on, I'm proud of the work around good relationships, making good decisions, social emotional needs and academic needs. And so we do that with our counselors in every one of our K-5 schools. At the mental health screeners that we are participating in, that we're doing right now, 6 through 12, twice a year, we use the best model for those students. They work with as they take those screeners, they work with their counselors. If there's indicators and red flags, they work with families and talk about what might need to happen, what support services. If families feel like they need more, we can run what's called a GAINS, and that's with an SBOT, which is the school-based outpatient therapist. And so that school-based outpatient therapist will run another assessment, work with the families, and come up with recommendations of what might support that student even deeper within our schools. So there are good things that are happening throughout the district. And again, understanding that we are working to provide services to support kids where we can. I would also say that my admin team are working and watching webinars and continuing their efforts around what else can we do, because someone would say that you're doing a lot and that's pretty good. Good is the grade of greatness, and so not only do we want to be good, we want to be really great at this work. And so more webinars and more training about what else can we do to enhance our services for students. Page 9. Around mental health services and just supporting students, and I can tell you I can attest to this as an elementary principal at Rossiter. We have ACL teams, and those are established throughout the K-5 district. ACL is the academic, social, and emotional learning teams, and they're comprised of teachers and school psychs, administrators, counselors, and we're really talking about having teachers come around the table and talk about where students need support. And so that service is taking place. And then we have mental health in that as well, with the mental health service teams or the assistance teams within those buildings. I would like to mention that the work that we've done, and you'll see it's been difficult. The CFCT model has been around, but there's been a funding dialogue going on for quite a while in the last 5 or 6 months. But I do appreciate the partnership that we have with Intermountain, Chevaliers Children's Hospital, and Aware, just helping us with those mental health teams that are associated throughout our district. There's quite a few of those different independent teams that we work with students that need that additional support. And so we continue to do that. I know that Ms. Nicholson in business office and Mr. McKay has worked really hard in understanding the new funding mechanism, so that we continue those services over the last 6 months and into the next school year. We've also, in this last 6 months, that in this report, there were several schools that piloted a PACS program, Good Behaviors Program, and it is now getting more spread, more prevalent within our district. And so we have the admin team was in this room last week, just in another training of the importance of PACS training. And PACS implemented in our schools is good for social emotional, it's good for substance abuse, it's good for social emotional health. And so we're thankful that is being implemented across the district, especially our K-5 district. Middle school has the Signs of Suicide program, and high school has YAM for our suicide prevention. And then we also have the QPR program for our staff, is to recognize signs of suicide. So our staff is trained. We have programs in the high school, middle school, and now in the elementary to bolster our mental health services for our students. And then lastly, around mental health services, we continue to look at trauma-impacted schools. And so webinars and then more trainings around trauma-impacted schools. And a lot of that work is being conducted and pushed through Ms. Davidson out of our curriculum department. So really a leading expert in our community, helping us get through those trainings and providing opportunity for our staff and our students. On page 10. My background is in academics, and I absolutely believe in it. But I also know that there's a major connection to schools and attendance and activities, either co-curricular or extracurricular. And in the last 6 months, we were able to come back to a much more normal co-curricular and extracurricular activity schedule. It hasn't been completely normal, but you'd ask our athletic director, Mr. McMahon, much more thankful where we are this year than we were last year. Just the connectivity. I see, kids, as I reported at the beginning of the school year, we had cross-country kids and football kids and volleyball. Things seem to be much more normal, and I think that's so important for our students to feel connected to our communities, to our schools. And so that has increased over the last 6 months. Our middle schools, you'll see the intramural programs picking up, and I believe they even added some additional ones just for the fact and the understanding that students need to do something outside of school, and also for one, physical needs, but more just that connection to their school community. One that we added to this 6-month report, and of course I didn't see this firsthand last year, but driver's education is back. And I can't tell you who's more happier. Is that the students or the moms and dads of the kids that are getting their driver's license? But super excited that we are able to not only have driver's education, but adding more of those opportunities for kids, because there's a lag time. I think a couple of trustees and I talked about that this fall, is that we didn't have it, or not the robust one that we had. and there were students in line waiting to engage in driver's education. So that's a big milestone for students, and that's back rolling. Page 11, technology, and I will just say that I can blanket over this quickly, but what I can't deny is that technology has its thread, its finger on about every aspect of education. Unlike when I was going to school in the 80s, and as a principal in the 90s or the 2000s, technology is getting deeper and deeper embedded into school. If it's school lunch accounts, it pays, it's families coming online to pay for their athletic fees. It's how we are giving out our secure data results. Technology is everywhere, and so I would not just dismiss this as that they're here. It's a very important part of us, and it's part of our focus around what we do in our district. I think an important note here is that I was a superintendent in the northwest part of the state here several years ago, and there was a major breach in one district, and I look at this and the 926 cyber attacks that have attempted our system. To this date, none have successfully, other than some phishing attempts, but those are big pieces, and when they breach in and get data and understand the student records, that's what they're looking for. So technology around this is critical. So it will continue to be part of our focus. Health and safety, cannot deny where we're at. Again, I keep toting this is our school nurses are superheroes. They did not see this coming 2 years ago and worked tirelessly to keep us in school. That's been our goal, and they have been a key member in this, is helping us stay in schools. And where they're at and the work that they've done needs to be noted. But in the last 6 months, they have done a tremendous job. Quite notably, vaccination clinics, and I see as we walk through here right now, not only our school nurses, but we employ help from aspiring nurses. So I believe that Montana Tech, Carroll, and Bozeman have had students that have helped us through our vaccination clinics, and most importantly our testing clinics that our nurses have helped us. And of course, Ms. Ridgway as well. I think one around health and safety that I'm most proud of in the last 6 months is that, remember, the federal government eliminated the COVID Leave Act. And we have staff members that have either one, COVID need to be out, or they have young ones that they need to be taken care of while they attend to a COVID situation. And so we implemented 80 hours, 10 days through the district to support our staff in the event that they need to take time because of this virus. And so that has happened within the last 6 months as well. Moving on, talent recruitment. I'm on page 12. We continue to adjust the compensation structure, employee groups. We do a market analysis, and I can't claim that's been me in the last 6 months. That's really been in the last year. But they will continue that, looking at the market analysis of where our employee groups are, and make sure that we're competitive. And I think that's important for us to, in a tight market, that we continue to be competitive in bringing in quality people and keeping them while we have them. We've also, in the last 6 months, we brought on 13 additional teachers. They are the ones that are filling in for maternity. They're the ones that have filling in for teachers that are gone for quite a while. And so those 13 teachers are supporting staff so that we can provide consistency to families. Because what I struggle with is that we get a substitute bouncing in every other day, and that's not good for kids. And so we wanted to provide consistency for our students, and obviously that's much more richer environment when we have consistency, but it's also it's supportive for our families as well. Transportation, we've talked a lot about it, and I put it in the 6-month report. There's a lot of work around transportation. One was the lack of drivers. You can see the bus there, but we also not just mitigated COVID and the lack of drivers, we also added technology. I think one of the important things, I wanted to do this for quite a while, and I was happy to see it was already rolling, is we provided technology. We have now an app for parents to have lifetime transportation. They can see where their bus is if the student got on, if they got off, and where that bus is in real time. I've said this before, what's really important what's helpful is that I've sat as a parent many times in a parking lot waiting for a bus to arrive. All right, this now gives me an opportunity to see, hey, the bus is on the path, I can make my way in time it just right. More importantly, it also sees it in our elementary district. If a student turns up missing or is sleeping in the back seat and we miss a stop, we can see if the student got on and if they got off. And so there's a health and safety measure around it as well. So I'm thankful for that. I noted at the bottom from last report, we had 37 violations. Again, what scares me is that we have people that run red lights on buses. And case in point, I know of a family, a dear family, that they had one of their grandkids hit by a driver that didn't yield to a red light. And so health and safety is super important for us. And so the camera system isn't to catch bad people. It's just that we want to provide a level of safety so that when our students get off the bus, they can exit across the streets safely. And so the app, our swipe card system, and the new cameras have helped us immensely. And then again, really innovative, just the solution around the lack of drivers. Instead of canceling routes throughout an entire community, just our neighborhoods, and say we're not bringing a bus to you. Our transportation department developed a schedule that, quite frankly, was called upon from a national bus training center and said, what did you do? How did you do that? That was great, innovative thinking, and they modeled it. So also working through shortage of drivers in innovative ways. Another piece that I want to draw attention to in the 6-month report is that we also had facilities, and so we're just not thinking about what COVID measures we need within facilities, but our facilities committee is really key back to life. We have Chair Hawthorne that has pulled us together and really working towards a master facility plan so that we know what it looks like in the future and being a real plan that we update yearly, and also a deferred maintenance plan on top of that so that we know what's coming at us. And so when I speak at meetings and people ask, what is your deferred maintenance? What is your needs? We'll have a really great idea of what that looks like. And so those two things pulled together through facilities, our committee has been super helpful. If you look at this, we have 20 facilities, 1.3 million acres, 181 acres, 1.3 million square feet, and the average is about 50-year-old buildings. So they're aging, and so they need some attention, and that's what this group has come around to do. When I first started, we were just at the tail end of closing out our bonds, and we rallied around that to find out exactly how much money do we have left in bonds, and what did we say that we were going to do in our bond language that we haven't completed yet. So that work is being done as well. I've asked our facilities department to pull that together. Where's our bond money? What did we not complete yet? And let's get that finished so we can wrap up the last existing bond. And that's working well right now. Ongoing maintenance through this last 6 months, we put roofs on Capitol High School 4Gs and May Butler. We did work at Kessler. We did work at Jefferson in the HVAC system around heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, which makes that building usable in the summer. That's a camp extension, if you remember. We used the 3 new buildings because largely it was the summer and we needed to get away from heat. So now Jefferson can also do that with us. Another important mitigation factor, and I think was important before we started a pandemic, is when I was at Rossiter, we had a lot of conversations around the HVAC system and the cleanliness now. What were we breathing? And so the district, and continue to do so, we're cleaning all of our duct work through the HVAC systems and throughout the district. And I think if I recall, we're just about done with the entire district except for the high schools. And so that's our next progress. And so our middle schools and elementary schools HVAC systems have been cleaned, enhance our airflow, but also just the cleanliness around what that looks like. We repurposed this building the last 6 months. When I walked through it in July, I had very many desks, tables, legs, chairs. This is a storage unit of equipment. And really, we talked a lot about what's more important, storage or people, and this has been repurposed, more centralized. This is a better atmosphere. This is a better environment. And when, quite frankly, we could put all of our May Butler people, our central office, into this in this facility, where at May Butler we couldn't. Right? We had people working from home. We just didn't have the room for them. And so then May Butler gets turned into our motor pool, and that's where our teams that work with motor, vision, and hearing throughout their schools, that's their new home. So it has a life as well. It's just not being mothballed. So in the last 6 months, a lot of work has been done there. One that we're super proud of is the Vigilante Stadium. We have $1 million upgrades to that, lights, track, end walls. And so the work around that in the last 6 months has also taken place. It turned out to be a spectacular addition to that stadium. We're also working on solar panels. Just about here done. Trustees will power you up here in a second. So solar panels. We also had Jim Darcy in Central. We worked heavily around getting those back up. There's a few pieces left that we need to finish. And then the work around Bryant was that was the last new school that hasn't had panels put on it. So Miss Ridgway and I have done some legwork to find out what that takes in the last 6 months. And we are up to speed, and I think we're in a good place to get panels put on Bryant Elementary. Nutrition, this is staggering. So everything set aside, and I was a super at this onset of this disease when everything shut down. And one of the most important aspects of the day was that school bus coming in with school lunches to a community, dropping food off. Likewise, Helena School District has done much of the same work. If you look at this, we have 1.6 million breakfasts that we have served since March of 2020. That's a lot of food, 1.6 million. So I appreciate the Food Nutrition Department and what they're doing. And we all know, we've said this before, in the environment and in the close proximity of where they're doing the work, that's staggering. And so a lot of great work coming out of nutrition. And then we fired up, and I wish that Ms. Walsh was here because she's part of this committee, but we also fired up and established a community wellness or a district wellness committee. They're doing some really great work. They've met probably 6 times. They have 2 subcommittees, and that's around nutrition and physical activity. And quite frankly, I've seen Harvest of the Month before, and that's where you have high schoolers supporting and going in and teaching students about different types of tastes. And that's not always well received when you take a fig to a 4th grader, but sometimes it is. But we're doing that work around exposing students to the Harvest of the Month, and then finding ways that students can continue to be active in the school day and then outside of the school day. And that's the work that started there. Capturing, in closing here quickly, capturing efficiencies. I noted here our business finance department, Ms. Mickelson, has done a lot of work around getting rid of paper and going electronic. Again, IT is a big part of that. But the work they're doing is to get rid of the old paper trails and going electronic has been over the last 6 months. And then IT and our business offices work together to go to a centralized print configuration throughout the district. Not always easy changing that, and timing might have been a little off, but that is a really great piece for us to be able to go paperless. Communication, ABC, I'm just about done here. In our ability for academics and building good relationships, and my last piece is around communication, and it's not my least piece, because I really tried to make sure that our communication has been better than good, right? I want to make it, and we know in communication it's never enough, but certainly trying to make sure that we communicate as best as we can. So keeping people in the know. So as things change, as we get real-time data, we want to keep people in the know, and that's really where I'm at with my Friday messaging, is to keep people informed and not guessing. As we get information, you know, we're our communication officer that we have on board right now has done communication audits with each building. What's working, what's not. And we're going to enhance our social network, and that's around Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and continue to build those platforms. Again, really, in the efforts, in all honesty, is to communicate as best as I possibly can through many means, and that's indicative to that Friday email that I keep sending out. Trustees, there's a recap at the end that really just goes back through the exact same things that I talked about. I hope to have this update at the end of the year, and then we'll do another one at the beginning or the middle of next year, just to keep our progress moving forward. So I know that was long-winded, and I've been excited to share that with you all day. there's a lot of great things, and so in closing, we have, and testament to even tonight, where there's a lot of passion and emotion around our strategies around COVID and mitigation standards, but really, I've asked my people and my team to let me do that work, and the rest of us get after teaching and learning and everything else that's important for students. So that's where we are at. I thank you for your time and patience. I think that's probably the longest deck I've had since I've joined your team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Wilson. Yeah, so many things to comment on, but I won't. In the interest of time, I think I'll just say to you and your leadership team, I just so appreciate your vision and your high expectations and all the work you put into this. And needless to say, I also want to say thank you, to all the teachers, all the paras, all the coaches, and all the other support staff in our schools who are doing the innovative and hard work in our classrooms with our students. And everything we do here is, of course, around supporting them. And it's just a wonderful, refreshing update, quite frankly, from you. And I very much appreciate that even before you presented this to the board, you shared it with your community in your Friday update. It's on the front page of the website. And I hope you find time to talk about it with other groups as well in the near future. It's an important document. And I had one question, but you already answered it, and that is the idea of doing something like this, every 6 months going forward. And I think what you're doing is taking our strategic priorities process and kind of making it your own. This is the important kind of updates that we want to present to the board and the community, and I really appreciate you doing it with us tonight and setting a pretty high bar, honestly. So thank you very much.
I envision this to be more bullet points, not quite as verbiage heavy on the next one. I won't get as many yawns, but I will put it together as more of a bullet point as we move forward. I felt like this needed it as to kick it out of the gate.
I appreciate it. Trustees, comments or questions for Superintendent Welch regarding this mid-year update?
Just thank you, Rex. Lots going on in our schools. Nice to hear.
Thank you, Trustee McEwen. Representative Blay, anything to add? Sorry to put you on the spot. All right. Well, thank you very much, Superintendent Welch, and thank you for the other items you shared in your superintendent's update. Shout out to our counselors. Thank you for mentioning that. They do an amazing job and do many things outside of what their official job descriptions entail. Look forward to hopefully recognizing Ms. Branco for her statewide Senior Educator of the Year recognition at a teacher board meeting, and just so much good stuff happening in our district. And we also should have some fun student recognitions on tap for our next board meeting. So, thank you very much. You're welcome. All right, that brings us to general public comment. This is the time for comment on public matters that are not on the agenda. Public matters do not include any pending legal matters, private personnel issues, or private student issues. Please do not attempt to address such issues at this time, or you will be ruled out of order. The board cannot enter into a discussion during general public comment. So, as we discussed before, we'll go ahead and start with folks who are here with us in person who would like to give public comment. We don't have a queue, so if you just want to be respectful of one another and come up to the podium right here, if you're interested in giving general public comment. Again, I'll go ahead and do my best to time you here, and again give you kind of a 1 minute warning when you have 1 minute left, and if you hit 3 minutes, I'll let you know. Who wants to start? Ms. Wright.
I like to get it done with. I don't really like public speaking, so I'll just get it done with first. Thank you, board. Thank you, chairman. Hi again, remember me? I'm back. I'm Jamie Bright, B-R-I-G-H-T for the record. You decided to put my high school kids back in masks despite the science proving that simple paper and cloth masks do not stop virus transmission, and I'm back. I'm here advocating for my children. I know, you're gonna claim that you mask in order to keep the schools open, and baloney, it's not true. The kids do not need to be forced to wear masks. Masks are harmful, and if someone wants to wear one because they believe it keeps them safe, then so be it. We're all for that. I'm all for that. On the first day of remasking, I got some very concerning communication from my daughter, and let me read you a text from my 14-year-old. Remember, she's 14, and her message will reflect that. This is her message. OMG, Mom, I cannot even do this today. I'm like dying, and I can't breathe. There's snot on the inside of my mask. People keep yelling at me, and they said they're taking away our bathroom privileges. I think I'm gonna die, and everyone is acting weird AF today. So that's from a 14-year-old. In her one text, she mentioned death and dying twice. That's a bit too uncomfortable for me as a mom. Does that statement have you squirming in your chair? Many other kids feel the same about masking, and yet they don't have an outlet to express their feelings. And some kids feel so isolated in masks that their mental health has taken a nosedive. Are you proud? Was this your goal? You know the masks don't work. Science and data have shown that schools without mask mandates do not have higher transmission rates. So why? Why? If I was you, I'd feel extremely culpable for the mental health decline of many children. And if I was in your shoes, I would feel extreme guilt if I had been a trustee who facilitated the masking mandates in schools. Heck, my conscience would lead me to resign my position on the school board. But that may be where we differ. I have a conscience, and I care about the well-being of our children more than I care about the optics of false protection. A large majority of our high school kids in Helena have gotten COVID, and they've recovered. Ironically, almost every teen has at one time contracted COVID, regardless of the drastic interruptions or restrictions that the school district placed on our children's learning. While the district was scrambling to prevent COVID infections, a vast majority of the kids contracted the virus anyways. Yet, even though I don't really know actually personally more than 10 teens who have not contracted COVID, I do in fact know more than 10 teens who suffered emotionally, academically, and socially at the hands of our school district, our board of trustees, and administrators. Strange, right? Is anyone else seeing how ironic this is? Let's protect the kids from COVID but cause permanent damage in other areas. Oh, but most kids contracted COVID anyways, even though we were trying to protect them. These are the things that make you go, I have a lot more to say. A ton more, but I can't get it done in a minute. So I'm just gonna stop it. To help illustrate the absurdity of your masking mandates, let me introduce a little bit of comic relief to finish out my conversation. Is there anybody in this room who's willing to wear a little bit of extra sunscreen for me so that I can stay safe from a sunburn when I go to Mexico in March? All right, your sunscreen will not protect me. If I want to be protected, I've got to wear sunscreen myself. That sounds familiar, right? So same with the masks. Wear them if you want to. Keep yourself safe. One quick solution. The district could purchase cafeteria tables to be used in the classrooms. Your science says that they don't need masks at cafeteria tables. Problem solved.
Thank you, Ms. Bright. Anyone else? Welcome.
My name's Avra, A-V-R-A. Branson, B-R-A-N-S-O-N. Can you hear me?
Yes, get your loud and clear. Yep.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Avra Branson, and I have been a paraeducator for the Helena School District for 15 years. This evening, I would like to thank Brett Welch, Superintendent of the Helena Public Schools, and the staff, who must make complex decisions and implement new processes to keep our kids learning. And that's not easy. Also, Stacy Collette, Administrator of Human Resources, who has been involved in just about every aspect of the Helena Schools COVID response planning and implementation. And to the Board of Trustees, I have never seen all of you work as diligently as you have since March 2020. Thank you for working with the employees, students, and the Helena community as well as you have during these complex and challenging times. I really do appreciate all the time and energy The Board of Trustees has invested in Helena School's students learning in the best ways possible during quickly changing circumstances. Having to sort through science, facts, misinformation, conspiracy theories, and what we can do must be incredibly challenging and even stressful, and you're not even paid. Thank you for keeping our schools open and students learning in person. Truly, the Helena School District is a good place to have kids in during this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Branson. Good evening, sir.
My name's John Foster. I'm a parent of a student in the Helena School District. Didn't write a lot of notes for tonight, but felt it was important to address you respectfully. Who makes the decision to put masks on the kids?
Sir, it's kind of public comment, so it's not a Q&A.
Yep.
So if you want to give a...
So where does that decision come from? Because it's not coming from data, and it's not coming from science. So is it coming from a position of we want to feel like we're doing something? I'm throwing that out there. Superintendent, you mentioned mental health and all that's going on in the district for mental health, and that's good. It's really good and needed and needful, and it's never been more needed since we've been dealing with the COVID restrictions placed on our students. The students aren't getting deathly ill. They're not dying from COVID. I would ask, and you don't have to answer, but how many teachers have died in the Helena School District from COVID? So why are we continuing to put more mandates on our kids? Why are we putting more restrictions on them that we know causes mental distress and takes them out of what should be a normal childhood? There's no data to support it, and yet you guys continue to do it. You mentioned, Superintendent, in your commentary earlier about what else can we do? What else can we do? Stop doing what you're doing. You don't need to figure out what else can you do. And you keep bringing up over and over how much you want to help the kids, and it's all about supporting the children in our district. We want to support them, we want to help them. You're doing the exact opposite by mandating the things that you're mandating. I'm a business owner, cover 11 states, and I talk to people in industry and business every day of the week. And the type of restrictions you're putting on our students are widely criticized and looked down on. You're making yourself look foolish. And that's, I'm sorry. I know we have different opinions, but you're making yourself look foolish in order to feel like you're doing something. Stop doing something. Let the kids be normal. The CDC just came out with the fact that the lockdowns, the mandates, the masking, all of that made virtually zero difference in the pandemic. Virtually zero. And specifically with our children, it's making no difference except their mental health. And you're robbing them of their childhood and normal school years. And it's not right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Foster. Welcome, good evening.
Hello, my name is Andrew Boyd. I have a junior at Capitol High School. Board, thank you for your time. Community, thank you for your time. I have concerns about the mask mandate as well. My concerns are along the lines of the school district making health decisions versus the households that the students are in. I have some concerns about the inconsistency of some of those masking policies. We've already heard about that tonight. I'm not going to go into that. I oppose mandates in general, and I think the reason why is that I think it's a slippery slope for all of us. I think it's very easy to start at one place and end up somewhere else entirely. Examples would be tobacco, obesity, alcohol. Those all impact our community. They all can impact our health. They all impact what we pay in insurance premiums, both as an individual and a business. So what are we going to mandate? How far am I going to step into your life and your business and your well-being? I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just stating that I think it's a slippery slope, and I think there could definitely be problems there. We can look at other developed countries and see how they're handling restrictions on their populace. Two examples are Sweden and Australia. They're on polar opposites of how they're approaching things. And look at how those populations are reacting and what's going on there. We can't keep a mandate in place forever, and all indicators are that COVID is not going away. So, as we've heard already tonight, what we're following the science, and I would just ask, what science are we following? And I went online today, and according to the data on Montana's own DPHHS demographics and state OPI website, which I'm sure all of you would know better than I what all is there, but they actually break it down for mask required versus mask optional schools. And I went through those cases, and the numbers are identical. And that's been tracked since September 21st, 2021 through today's numbers. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boyd. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, community, as well. I didn't know what to expect when I came here. I was invited, and I thought it was all about mask mandate. I'm a fired up mama bear.
I'm so sorry, can you start with just your name?
Sorry about that. My name is Dawn Mahler, M-A-H-L-E-R. I'm a fired up mama bear. My husband and I, in our 50s, adopted 5 children from Montana, 4 of which are meth exposed, and 1 is a shaken baby with disabilities. I am fighting for my kids to get superior education. I am also a 27-year veteran nurse who is ready to quit my job in order to homeschool my kids to meet their needs. My girls in 5th grade and 3rd grade, their grades have slipped. My 3rd grader has D's. This is unacceptable. She returned a paper that was scored 100% with multiple spelling errors. Some of the words she couldn't even tell us what she had wrote. Yet that was acceptable to the teacher, and it was 100%.
Oh my gosh.
Now I know this may not have anything to do with the mask, or it may. As a 27-year veteran nurse, I have been employed in different hospitals throughout the United States where I have tested people for COVID virus, and it all started with the CDC recommending the full garb, the face shield, the N95, which as employee health personnel, we know that we are fit tested for. If we taste saccharin, the mask is ineffective. Therefore, we can catch whatever virus or infection or anything else we're exposed to with that mask. Having said that, the CDC has changed their mask requirements based on what PPE, or personal protective equipment, as it's dubbed in the nursing field, what equipment is available to the medical staff. This has been from day one. CDC has changed the requirements for medical personnel from day one. We were on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, minute-to-minute update during the whole beginning of this. I don't believe these masks are necessary. prevent people from spreading infections onto the surgical field, hence the name surgical mask. That's what you're wearing. It doesn't prevent you from catching anything. It prevents your germs from contaminating that surgical field that's supposed to be sterile. Mask science is there. Let's study the anatomy of the mask. And if we feel the need to wear a mask to protect ourselves, wear the appropriate mask. Be educated. Kids shouldn't have to wear masks. Our bodies were intended to fight bacteria, fight viruses. God did this to us. He produced us in these bodies that are wonderful. And they work.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moore.
Good evening. My name is Eric Martini, Eric with a K, Martini like to drink. I'm a father of 3 children in the school district. I'm sure the board recognizes me as I've been offering my 2 cents on the forced masking issue for the past 7 or 8 full board meetings. I've called out the hypocrisy of the board just about each time I've been up here, and how the board simply ignores science, any basic common sense approaches to the pandemic, as well as ignoring the views of parents, teachers, students, and the general public. By far, the majority of the commenters at the August board meeting, in which this forced mask policy was initiated, were anti-mandate and anti-forced masking. The views of these commenters were flat out ignored because the board had already made up its mind on the issue, and the general public comment period was just a formality, an obstacle in the way of what was already being rolled out. Then at the December board meeting, I recollect calling out the superintendent and the board on why January 4th would be the day to roll back the forced masking. It literally made no sense. I wondered out loud if the superintendent could predict the future, as more likely than not, cases would continue to rise in the county as we went deeper into winter. Lo and behold, cases went up. I'll be darned, it's almost like this happens every year around this time. As I recall, it used to be called cold and flu season. I also called out the board on its blatant hypocrisy regarding its facility use agreements because apparently COVID doesn't exist after the school day ends. Yeah, I guess at 3:30 no one needs masks in our schools, but during the school day, by God, it's mandatory for every soul walking through those doors. I missed the January board meeting as I was visiting family in sunny and free Florida. I visited my brother who has 2 kids, my niece and nephew, who attend schools in a district several times larger than our own here in Helena. Yet you let me know that the schools there are mask optional. Indeed, this is the case for several much larger school districts in many states, except of course ours, as a superintendent here in our district can simply unilaterally, on a whim, without the input of the parents, teachers, or students, wave his wand and declare forced masking that day. Here's the kicker though, the superintendent, and by extension the board, make no mistake, the superintendent does not act without the blessing of the board. That is very clear. The board has effectively reneged on the policy that was supposed to be a compromise between the district and the parents regarding the district's response to the pandemic. I use the word compromise loosely because, again, by far the majority of public commenters were not in favor of forced masking, but a mask optional approach. Why even have a policy if you're going to simply ignore the policy and do whatever the hell you want anyway? I'll skip down here. Please, parents, I implore you, we don't comply our way out of this. We only continue to embolden people with views contrary to the majority of parents when we cave every time. Though the superintendent said he anticipates lifting the mandate next week, what about next month? The district can just unilaterally make masking mandatory whenever it sees fit. A simple way to combat this is just to send your children without masks and tell teachers and faculty at your child's school that they will not be required to wear one. For the 3 weeks in which masks were optional, guess what? Almost no one was wearing them. Funny, it's almost as if most parents don't want it for their children. And honestly, do you really think the last couple of weeks forced masking has been in effect have done anything? There's a whole string of used masks on the fences of Jim Darcy School that kids use and reuse because no one really cares anymore. It's a joke. Another joke in the clown world we're living in. I'll leave you with this last question. For the parents in this room and online, a simple question. Who gets to decide if your child wears a medical device for 7 hours a day? Is it you, or does a government bureaucrat who doesn't even know who your child is decide? Is it you who were there for your kid at 3 a.m. when they had a bad dream or a stomach ache? You who changed thousands of their diapers, held them till they fell asleep when they were sick, taught them how to ride a bike, how to fish, throw football?
Martini,
You help them through all the tough times, and you help through all the good times. Who decides, them or you? Because I promise this, if you give them an inch, they're gonna take a mile. Enough is enough.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Anyone else? Good evening, welcome.
Amanda Osborne, OSBORNE. I'm a parent in the district. As I understand it, the board's yielded the decision to the superintendent as to whether or not we will or will not mask, so I'll just turn my comments to you, Mr. Waltz. I know you want to protect children and keep them in school, and I'm assuring you that your goal is the same as mine. I'm a mom to 3 daughters, and I'm experiencing firsthand the consequences of failing to return to in-person learning last year, both emotionally and academically, and I'm staring it in the face every single night. I appreciate your regular email communication, I really do, but you've got to stop trying to convince me that masking is a solution to a staffing shortage.
Right.
Masking students from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. could not possibly be your most effective tool to fix staffing shortages. I'm looking for leadership. If staff shortages are the issue, then how about you innovate some solutions, direct solutions? Don't play politics with my daughter's faces, or don't use them as public approval strategy. My girls are more than just eyes, and masking is not free. It was heartbreaking to watch them return to school 2 weeks ago, faceless. Since that time, they have struggled emotionally, and they have experienced harassment by students and teachers who are self-imposed masking police, acting in delusional and dangerous cult-like behavior.
Yep.
Kids have always been diligent students, but they have developed a despondent attitude towards school, to the point that last week they asked to stay home for the very first time ever. The CDC reported a 51% increase in ER visits due to suicide attempts by adolescent girls in 2021. Masks are not part of the solution to this grim crisis. They exacerbate it. I'm the one unpacking emotions at the dinner table for 3 adolescent girls every single night. The long-term consequences of this mask requirement are very real in my home. You're in the hot seat, Mr. Welts, and I don't envy you. But continuing to implement a mask mandate for these kids is putting you and this board and ultimately all of us on the losing side of history. I've got a good memory. I remember the plexiglass policy, that was bad policy. I remember masking kids at outdoor recess, that was bad policy. I remember keeping them out of school last year, and that was bad policy. So I'm asking you now, not next Monday, I'm asking you today to step up the way other leaders have and end COVID restrictions to start making things right again before my kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne. Anyone else? Good evening, Representative Funk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Moffie Funk, M-O-F-F-I-E. Funk is in Uptown. And I'd just like to thank you so much for everything you have done, and that everything this school district has done over these past many, many months to support this community, because the school is the community, and to support the students. Thank you to the paras and the teachers and the kids and the families and the administration that have shown up day after day after day to support them. I am particularly grateful in your report, the discussion about food, and because kids can't learn if they're hungry, and what you have done to help feed them over this time is fabulous, and I am truly grateful for that. Also, the mental health, you all have done so much, and I want to give a particular shout out to the superintendent and Mr. McKee and Mrs. Nicholson, who have lost so much sleep over trying to get this funding for a very successful and very important program that's in all your schools. Thank you so much. I think maybe we're getting there maybe, but it's been a long, long haul, and I'm so grateful for your persistence and for all that you have done for that. With the food, back to the food, I know we're working with No Kid Hungry and with local foods. That's a great thing, and it's important. It helps our economy. It helps kids know what a potato is actually like before it becomes a French fry. And I think all these programs, I'm so pleased and so grateful for all that you are doing. And I'll just end with one thing. I had the honor of judging a contest, a statewide contest, and the theme was, what impact has the pandemic had on the mental health of youth? And it was extraordinary, because they were essays, there were videos, and there was artwork. And yeah, it's been rough on them. There is no question. It has been rough on them. But several of them said they think they're going to come out of this stronger, having learned resilience, that their relationships are going to be stronger, that their sense of self is going to be stronger, because they have had a rough time. They've had a rough time. And I found that so heartening and so powerful, because these are the kids that have had situations that have caused them stress, and they are now going to be able to have the resilience and the knowledge to help other people. And I think that's, we're in tough times, but I'm so grateful that we have your leadership. And if there's anything I can do, let me know. Thank you so much.
After this is all done.
Okay. Any more in-person general public comment?
Maybe it'll be stronger, Jackie.
None of the kids are. Great. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Christine Sorum. I didn't really plan to talk again, but here I am. You talk about having respect. I feel like I need respect from the school board. I have written multiple emails, and from what I understand, it's just a copy and paste response to other parents that have written into the school board about mask mandates and other things. It's just a copy and paste. Are you really reading what we're saying?
Right.
Do you even take into account what we're saying? How we feel? I feel like you've taken away my parental rights in my son's physical and mental health. And you don't care. I even said that in my last email. There was no mention of my kids' physical and mental health. Nothing. I also just want to say, you need to focus on education. These kids need to learn how to learn. My second grader isn't doing spelling tests. Like, no spelling tests for a second grader. They need to learn how to take tests. They need to learn, there's so many coping skills in taking tests and doing that on a weekly basis. And he's not doing that. I don't think he's ever had a test, and he's been in school for 3 years. That's not okay. Also, I understand that technology is a part of our life. I do. By having my 4th grader do 45 minutes of math a week on a computer, how do you learn doing math on a computer?
Right.
You need to have that physical touch to paper on how to picture it in your head. How do you expect kids to learn math on a computer? He also has to do 45 minutes of reading on a computer. I don't understand it. Yeah, I really feel like you took away my parental rights to my kids' lives. Like the gentleman said, we're there with them all the other hours of the day, besides when they're at school. And it's our choice if they're wearing a mask or not. It's not yours. I don't want my kids to be a pawn in this though. And so I tell them to go and to be respectful. But I'm done. I'm done. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Ms. Sorum.
Evening, Board.
Welcome.
My name is Howard DeRocher. 2 children in the district. I also didn't actually plan on talking tonight. And the main reason why, because I don't think you hear me.
Yep.
Your eyes glaze over. I can't
Make
see your
doodles.
face. With what science at this point? You followed the CDC for how long? But now they're come out with their guidance that, and by the way, the CDC in their guidance said, for this variant, these masks don't work. The size of the micron of this variant hasn't changed since the first form of coronavirus. What point does common sense come into play? You know, I was, as you recall, some of you, most of you, the only parent to speak to you for the very first time, right after the shutdown. My concern was education. I sat in this meeting. How much of what we heard tonight, we heard about roofs, cleaning airways, masks, how much are packs, this and that. How much of this meeting came down to education? Not very much. I asked for these scores. I saw one of the trustees posted a post this week. Our kids are doing so much better since the beginning of the school year. Well, there are many parents here in that year you were shut down that told you we need to be in school. And when we start this school year, like it's some novel idea by some of you that we need to be in school 5 days a week, we pleaded with you to get our kids in school. We have 2 trustees that actually voted not to still have our kids in school. 2 days a week.
You know who you are.
2 of the trustees here voted for that.
Okay.
Now, I want my kids educated. I want the numbers. I want those scores. I actually already have them. You guys need to give it out, and I don't care how many minutes, sir. I came here to be heard.
Well,
You might not listen, but you will hear.
Sir, I have the authority to set a time limit.
You can set it whatever time limit you want.
You have 1 minute.
You can have my 3.
Anyway, I was very respectful for a very long time. At what point do you guys take culpability for the actions that you have taken?
That's right.
To these kids? At what point? To this day, if you recall, this is, I think, the 6th time I spoke to you about the education of my children. Not one. This is many responses I got from any one of you. The only person that I've had a conversation with is sitting right there. And he's in a tough spot. Ms. Osborne is right. You are in the hot seat. Our numbers are very low. We had a steep incline and a steep decline. If that's the case, you put masks back on these kids with no criteria. None. And no criteria to take them off.
Mm-hmm.
The reason you took them off in the first place was because people had a chance to get vaccinated. What changed? Just because you decided? That's not acceptable to me. You set a criteria, you stick with it. Everybody had their chance to get vaccinated. And it didn't work, did it? Which some of us told you this whole pandemic. 0 kids.
Mr. DeRozier, you're way over time. Please wrap up.
I realize this, sir.
Okay.
Please hear me. Listen to the words of these people and do what's best for kids. I believe it says that on the back of your name tags.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Ms. Mose, were you interested in speaking?
Is Trustee Goldie's on? Is she on?
Okay, so, good evening. Heidi Keister, thank you all for being here. Do you all know why we're here? You all know why we're here, right? We're all here. We're all here because we want this to end. We want it all to end. And we don't trust you. We don't trust. We don't trust that it's ever going to end. So we're just going to keep on coming. And we're sad that the policies of this board have caused so much division and so much turmoil within our community. The climate of this community is just terrible. I have a solution. I'm solution oriented. The military in me is. So solution is take the masks off or mask your teachers. Mask the teachers with N95 masks. Put N95 masks on your teachers. You know, I think you could approach the teachers union president here in Helena, you know, the one that says she wants to recall Senator Daines, you know, because it's not about politics. None of this is about politics, right?
Right.
None of it. None of it. We even have a legislator here it's not about politics, okay? So, you know, ask her if, you know, maybe that'd be a good idea, just mask the teachers, because if the hypothesis was correct, that it did go down when the teachers masked. So the cases went down for the teachers, but the community spread did not go down. So the hospital is still over, it already has we're up to like over 20 or whatnot. So I don't think the masking of the kids worked. Just don't. Based off that scientific evidence, I guess we're going to use that. I don't really know, but I know that didn't work. So if the masks though work, then that shouldn't happen. So I'm back to the staffing thing as well. Our problem that St. Peter's is having with staffing, they don't offer any sign-on bonuses, they don't offer any of this stuff. This isn't our children's fault, the staffing at the hospital. That's not our fault. And we're not responsible for that. So let's go back to politics. So New York and New Jersey and Connecticut, they're getting the masks off, right? Because I wish our Democrat legislator would have came without her mask on. Maybe we would have got a mask off. I don't know. I mean, I'm sick of playing the politics here. So I want to leave you with this. This is what my kid said to me. My kid came home and he said, "I think they're putting masks on us to keep our mouths shut."
Yep.
Yep.
100%.
You know what? Maybe that's what it is, because we're having so much problems in our district. Maybe that's what it is. My first grade teacher used to tape our mouth shut. When I grew up in a small town in the Midwest, she'd tape our mouth shut. So is that what it is? I mean, I don't have any answers here. So I also want to talk about the effects of the policies that you had. My neighbor, he just turned 18. He is in prison. He's quit going to school when COVID happened. When schools closed down, he stopped going to school. So a lot of these policies really affect these underprivileged kids. Mm-hmm. And I just think that the furthermore you push this, the more they push back. And the more you know, being a teenager, the less it's gonna. So I'm just standing here, and I just really like you guys to just take off the masks and stop playing politics. And you know, I got a lot to say too, but hey, thanks a lot for all you guys are doing, and I just really wish we just stop playing this political game. I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keister.
Good evening, Chair and Board. My name is Robin Rose. I believe you all received an email. I sent certified letters. I know that confirmation of the letters being received by Rex came through, and Drenda, and I don't know what happened to yours, Luke, but it's still in lingo, but you all received an email. Please pass those letters out, a hard copy now. FOIA requests have been made for all financial, for all public comment emails, conversations with superintendent and any school board members connected to health department and hospital resources, whoever is helping you decide or coercing you to decide to mask our kids. Financial information that pertains to COVID and the things you've done to these kids to protect yourselves, teachers, adults, from this pandemic. So that is in the process. This letter, Rex received it Friday, according to my confirmation. Yesterday, everybody received the email, and I think Drenda's certified letter came through yesterday. And so you guys have some work to do on this. You're busy. I guess you asked for it. So there is apparently a records custodian. I reviewed your policy number 1075. It states that you have a reasonable period of time. It states 10 business days. My letter also says 10 school days. And I understand that there will be some lawyers that you will contact to ensure that this letter is proper. It does quote Montana law, and we will do the best we can to communicate closely, quickly, because 10 days goes pretty quick. So I look forward to that work. I also know that after I receive all those copies, I'll have work to do too. And I implore anybody to look with me because it's all public comment. It's all public record. I want to make sure that for agenda tonight, the items of action, that's second reading, correct? So there will be public comment on those, correct? That's second reading. It doesn't say second reading. It just says action items. So
I don't have it. They have them.
And I believe that was all I had for this moment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Mose. Any further in-person public comment? Okay, last call. All right, thank you, everyone who showed up in person to provide general public comment. Very much appreciate it. We're going to switch over to online now. So, folks attending online, if you would like to make general public comment regarding items that are not on tonight's agenda, if you could go ahead and enter your name into the chat box, or if you're have trouble with that, perhaps just raise your hand in Teams. Mr. Myers, do you let me know if you see anybody indicating?
I don't see that anyone has so indicated as yet.
Okay.
Oh, there's one.
There's one.
Okay. So is that Ms. Copan? Okay. You go ahead and allow her to unmute. That'll be helpful.
Hi, my name is Joseph. My name is Joseph Copan. I really liked going to my school once a week called Explore School, but we decided to stop going because they wouldn't let you not wear a mask, and you would always have to wear a mask. It was super annoying, and I hated it.
Could you hear him?
We can hear him loud and clear, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. This is, if you want, this is his mom, Chelsea Copan, Chelseaa. Copan is Culpon, and I'm a district and your mother. I homeschool 3 of our children, and the youngest is Gertrude, and she's 2, so she's not homeschooled. But my boys had been in Explore School for 3 years, or 3 for the oldest and 2 for the younger one. And when we went back in person this fall, I explained to them that they would have to wear masks, and did they still want to go to Explore School? And they love Explore School, so they said yes. But even before Christmas, the 9-year-old was crying and refusing to go to school in the morning. And so we made the decision to withdraw them starting this semester. And that's obviously very hard for them because they loved it, but they hated the masks more. And I want to thank the superintendent for the report. I really appreciated it. I don't follow this as much as maybe some parents because we homeschool, but I have followed the PACS Good Behavior Game for several years, and we've talked about it in various community health meetings that I've been a part of. So I'm very happy to see the Helena School District tackle this. In addition to, schools for lots of reasons and over a course of a very long time have become a place where children receive food, instead of in the home. And that's also where they're receiving counseling and mental health services. And so I'm glad that we are doing that because as a society, we have come to a place where that is necessary, required, most appropriate, choose your adjective. So I'm glad that we are doing those things, and there will probably be more of a need to do those things as a result of the impacts of the pandemic and the masks. And I know the superintendent, thank you, I know the superintendent, got a mixed review tonight, but I know that Rex, as well as all of the trustees, are working very hard, and I hope you continue to do the hard work that you get paid and not paid to do. And I would just leave with this, that, you know, originally the Atlantic, Wall Street, New York Times, and Johns Hopkins all encouraged us to mask and lock down, etc. But in the last week, all three of those institutions and publications have said masking in schools had no effect and is not helpful. It's worthless. So it's not only you know, the CDC, but the simple publications, commonly read publications are also saying the same thing. So, sorry, thank you. I'm sure it's hard to hear me. You guys have a great night.
Thank you, Ms. Culpon, and we can hear you loud and clear, and please extend our thanks to Joseph for his public comment as well.
I will. Thank you.
All right, up next it looks like we have just Tim. Don't have a last name yet.
Okay. Hi. My name is Melissa Casina, Kosena. I am a parent of a child in your district. I have also been a teacher for 22 years in a neighboring school district, and I know that there are lots of parents who have talked about the emotional and mental effects of masks, so I am going, which I completely agree with. I'm going to approach this from a different aspect. So like I said, I have been a teacher for 22 years. I have taught kindergarten, first and second grades. I have my master's in reading and literacy education. I have been told numerous times that I can teach a rock to read. I don't need to see the district's test scores to know that they have made a dramatic dip in the last few years. This is partly due to you spending only 2 shortened days a week for 3/4 of the school year last year. But this is also due to masks. So the very first step when a child is learning how to read, or even before they are beginning to read, is they have to learn something called phonemic awareness, or they have to have phonemic awareness. In a nutshell, phonemic awareness is the ability to manipulate sounds in words. So before they even see a letter, a word, or a sentence, they have to be able to hear and speak and change those sounds in a word. So to be able to do that, kids need to know 2 things. They have to be able to adequately hear the sounds that are being said, and they have to see the sounds being modeled with mouths, lips, tongues. Masks impair both of these things. The masks muffle the sounds so that they cannot adequately hear them, and they cannot see the teacher's mouths move to see how that sound is represented. The teacher cannot see the child forming these sounds in the words either. This is greatly impacting the kid's ability to read. You also should talk very closely with your speech pathologist and your speech therapist to see how their year is going, because I have talked to several, and many of them have said that the number of students who are qualifying for speech has increased 3-fold in the last year. These kids are not able to see and hear the words that are being said, and it is affecting them with speech. So masks are not only affecting our kids emotionally, but also academically. We don't have any data on the long-term effects of masks, but there has been lots of data on long-term effects of not being able to read. And here's a scary one. 4/5 of all 4th graders who are not reading on grade level will end up incarcerated or on welfare. 4/5 if they are not reading on level by 4th grade. We need to get the masks off the children for their future.
That's a real study right there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Casino. Looks like we have Ethan Heverly.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Wonderful. I apologize in advance. I don't have my thoughts terribly compiled because I didn't know that this was taking place this evening. I stumbled across it online, and I wanted to weigh in kind of from a different perspective than what you've heard so far. Respectfully, first of all, Mr. Chairman, and I know there's a legislator there as well. I want to thank you for your time and your attention. It's greatly appreciated, and I know it's no small. Sometimes you're underappreciated. I also want to say that these views are my own personal view and not that of my employer. The reason I'm reaching out today is primarily because I have school-age children. I have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and baby number 4 on the way in a couple of months. And none of them will go to the Helena School District. And that is out of the current state of affairs specific to this situation. I mean no disrespect. It's just a mess. And the reality is I can't justify my child's education, my child's future, compromising those because we're sitting here focusing on this. With all due respect, we have a vaccine. You can choose to get the vaccine. And by the way, I want to also say, I'm not one of these people who takes the pandemic lightly. I personally know 3 individuals who have passed away during the pandemic. Could pick them up and pick up my phone and call them today if they were still here. So I take it very seriously. That being said, the science does not support what is being done in the school district right now. If we wanted to actually follow the science and talk about actual effective masking, then we should be talking about what a previous speaker said, which was the N95 mask, because the science says that those are the only masks that are remotely effective, and even possibly not even then. Excuse me?
Sorry, you have about 1 minute left in your time, 3 minutes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so, I wear a mask to work. My employer requires that of me, and that's fine. I do what's asked of me, but I am not going to subject my kids to 8 hours of school a day, wearing a mask, lack of oxygen, all of the things that the previous speaker just mentioned. My kids will not go to the Helena School District for those reasons. Yep. Mr. Chairman.
Good choice. Thank you very much, Mr. Heberly. All right, Mr. Myers, I don't see any other indications. Do you?
Nope, I do not.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again for everyone who provided public comment online, and again for everybody who joined us tonight. We're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute recess here, and allow everybody to leave if they'd like to leave, or
He's
looking at me.
Thank you very much.
Maybe. I don't think so, because when I do this.
I'm gonna go say congratulations to Janet.
Good for you.
Courtney, are you speaking for the academics?